Hi everyone! In today's episode we're going to review the aromas of wine and the classification in the three groups that are present. And we're going to link these aromas to the most common grape varieties in the world. I'm Nicolas Seltzer and let's go into our episode today. So let's review wine aromas. The aromas of wine are divided into three categories. The primary aromas, which are the aromas that come or that are part of the grapes, the skins, and all these aromas from the grape are called primary aromas. Then we have secondary aromas. These are aromas that the wine will pick during the fermentation process. And then we have the tertiary aromas, which are the aromas that the wine will pick during storage or during aging process. So let's review the primary aromas in white wines. What I have done for this explanation is I have picked three of the most common grape varieties, and we will check what are the profile aromas of each of these grape varieties. So in the white wines, the most common aromas, at least for the explanation that we want to do today, we will have aromas such as lemon, we will have green apple, grapefruit, pineapple, mango, pear, apricot, and peaches. Remember that these aromas in retronasal are related to a taste. So the ones in the left being the citrus ones, the lemon and the apple, are going to give us that acid sensation in the mouth. Then grapefruit and pineapple, if they are ripe, they will give us a balance between acid and sweet. And then as we go to the right, we're going to feel the sweetness. So the aroma of each of these particular fruits, together with the palate and the taste, give us that full experience of wine tasting. So for the aromas, let's say we have a Sauvignon Blanc. Sauvignon Blanc will have normally aromas of lemon, green apple, and grapefruit. Sometimes when the Sauvignon Blanc is from a warmer climate and is riper, then we will pick aromas of pineapple, which has this balance of sweetness and also acid. But generally, Sauvignon Blanc will be a wine that is more in the acid profile compared to Chardonnay. Chardonnay is a wine that has a blend of the acidic and also much more ripeness or sweetness. And the aromas of Chardonnay will be in the range of grapefruit, pineapple, and mango, sometimes sweet as pear. And then we have Riesling, which some of the typical profiles of Riesling are in the apricot and peaches, these aromas and sweetness. Let's see what happens with the red wines. In the red wines, we will have a quite a big bandwidth of different aromas, being plums, cherries, blackcurrant, blackberries, bell peppers, olives, spices, mushrooms, which is related to the earthy aromas, and then floral. So let's see some of the most common grape varieties in the world. What is their profile? In Merlot, the most common aromas are plums and cherries. This is for Merlot. Then in Cabernet Sauvignon, blackcurrant, also known as cassis, blackberries, and bell pepper will be some of the very common aromas in the profile of Cabernet Sauvignon. Then Shiraz will have blackberries, is very common, and if it comes from warm climate, it will taste or the aroma will feel more like a blackberry jam than the fruit itself, kind of like sweet. So Shiraz will be blackberries and also black olives and a little bit of spices. Then we have Pinot Noir, and Pinot Noir will be in the range of aromas such as cherries and also earthy, such as mushrooms. So this is kind of like some of the most classic aromas that will identify each of these given grape varieties. Now, I would like to mention two grape varieties that are flagship grapes for a couple of countries. One is Carmener in Chile. Carmener in Chile will have very spicy aromas, and then in the mouth will have the sweetness of blackberries and cherries. And then we have in Argentina Malbec, which the profile in the nose will be very much floral, and then also cherries will be quite common in the aroma, but the feeling flavor of cherries. Okay, so let's move to the secondary aromas, which are the ones related to winemaking. And the most common one will be the aroma of bread. The aroma of bread is related to yeast. Remember that in episode number 1, we explained how fermentation is done by yeast. Well, yeast, in the same way that we use yeast to ferment wine, we use yeast to ferment bread. The yeast gives us the sense of this aroma of bread because of the experience of fermenting bread, and we eat bread which is being fermented with yeast. So that's the link that gives us the idea that we are smelling bread, but in reality it's the yeasts. Now, also during winemaking, there's a process called malolactic fermentation. This is a process that we can do or don't do, but most commonly is done. And the reason is because wines in general have a lot of acid, the same acid that is present in green apples. Green apples, as you know, they're very acid, and the acid is very aggressive. So in wines, a lot of the times during the winemaking process, the winemakers will do what is called the malolactic fermentation. And this process is a fermentation where the malic acid, which is the acid present in the green apple, is turned into lactic acid, which is the acid present in milk, butter. So by doing this malolactic fermentation, we turn a wine that is very acid into lactic acid, which is much softer and gives us this sense of buttery and creaminess. So sometimes these secondary aromas of wine related to butter and cream, or even milk, they are related to the malolactic fermentation. So these are part of the secondary aromas. Then we have the tertiary aromas, which are related to the storage and the aging of the wine. So where we store and age the wine will be very, very important. Let's say that we have any wine, any of the wines that we have just discussed previously, and we store the wine in a stainless steel tank. Whatever the aromas are present in the wine as we store it in stainless steel, it will be kept in the same way. Normally, simple wines are going to go after fermentation into stainless steel tanks, and they are going to be bottled later when the winery needs it and they need to ship the wines across the world. But for more complex wines, there's a possibility of storing and aging the wine in oak barrels. Like you see, this is a more concentrated wine. It will be a wine that has more aromas, more flavors. So it's a wine that is capable of being able to receive more aromas and flavors without losing the intensity of the primary and secondary aromas. So tertiary aromas in a complex wine will be added by oak aging, and some of the most common aromas when you store wine and you age wine in oak barrels will be coconut, cinnamon, nutty aromas, coffee, cigar box, and leather. So as you see, the synergy, I would say, of the primary, secondary, and tertiary aromas could give us a really, really interesting experience when we're tasting a wine. The more elegant, the more complex, and of course, well, the more expensive wines will have a bandwidth of many more aromas, therefore, and flavors in an experience that is going to be much more exciting. Let's see what we have in terms of bad aromas. These are not part of the classifications, but I would like to let you know that there can also be bad aromas in wine. And most of the times it's due to oxidation. We don't leave wines open in contact with oxygen. Wines have to always be stored in sealed containers without any oxygen. Oxygen will kill any aromas of the primary and secondary aromas, and it will give us aromas such as vinegar and plastic. So we need to make sure that the wines are well stored and without any contact to oxygen. So let's go to our recap. So in this episode, we would like to remember the classification of aromas in primary, secondary, and tertiary, the importance of wine storage, whether we do stainless steel or we add this new complexity of aromas by oak aging our wines, malolactic fermentation, which is going to give us that type of lactic, meaning aromas of butter, baby cream, and then the importance of keeping the wines sealed without any contact with oxidation. So for this episode, give me a like, share these videos with your friends so they can learn more about wine, subscribe to my channel, and I also invite you to write me comments. I will be looking at the comments, I will be answering comments, and if you are or would love to have any special topic or something specific in a future episode, let me know. I will be happy to answer questions and give you further and more information. So cheers and see you next week.